Done by.
We'd like to thank you all for joining our Health Equity Forum. We just ask everyone just to make sure that your devices are muted throughout the conversation. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them inside the chat. And then you can also raise your hand and then we'll get to you. So this is our February Health Equity Forum, and we welcome you. And I turn it over to our Program Director for Office of Health Equity and Racial Justice, Karina Limerick.
Thank you so much, Raymond. Hello, everyone. We're able to you today for our Health Equity Forum. It's a monthly forum, and so we appreciate coming together to exchange ideas and have meaningful conversations on health equity. Today's forum, we have special guests, and we're going to be commemorating Black History Month. This is the end of Black History Month. But certainly the contributions of African Americans here in the United States of America are vast, and learning about those contributions doesn't just end at the end of the month. And so we have a special presentation that will help us recognize this special observance. Before we get to that, though, I would like to bring your attention to our health officer, Dr. Kalia Nalaman, who will give us an update on the Healthy Communities Program and share with you how you can all participate in our open houses.
Thank you, Karina. Good to see all of you. And for those of you who have heard of this before, I'm glad to refresh your memory. For those of you who haven't, our Healthy Communities Program is our push really out of COVID to make sure that we're reaching people in communities that we haven't served as well and that have health disparities, meaning that they have either lesser access to service or poorer outcomes. What that means is that we do our work in partnership with all of you. That's why you're here, both in person and on Zoom. And we want to be able to continue that work, right? It started out of COVID, but it certainly is, honestly, COVID is just a small piece of that work right now. It's really focused on education, vaccines, testing, vaccines. We're talking about school age vaccinations for adults and senior centers, homeless shelters, homebound individuals. So it's really trying to make sure that we reach everybody in our communities, particularly those who are the most vulnerable. And so we've had a couple of open houses. We have 2 more coming up, one at Pearl Health Center on March 7th, and the one at the Lewis Scott Community Center on March 21st. And one of the reasons that we're having this is that, in this time of, for those of you who don't know, this is the time where the county is determining its budget, and there have been town halls. The people we serve don't make it to those town halls. They don't have the time or the space to do that. So their voices don't really get heard during this process. And so we want to make a space for that to happen. And we want you to share that as well, because all of you are doing this service as well, in addition to the health department. So please do share the experiences of the people that you serve with county leadership. Let them know what you think of this, because otherwise, there's nobody who's standing up for these programs. So we hope to see you, if we haven't seen you already, we hope to see you in one of our 2 next open houses. So I'll turn it back over to you, Karina.
Thank you very much. So we're going to transition to Dr. Tony Gedden, who will talk about COVID-19 and give us an overview.
This will be very, very brief, and we will leave it on here. And Karina and I talked about this for the remainder of what typically is known as cold and flu season, right? So how we want to integrate COVID into that. But this is really just a reminder to please get your bivalent booster. So if you've not had an updated booster, we would recommend that everyone do that as well. As children, 6 months and older, right? For a year or for several months, it rolled out in different phases where different age groups were eligible at different times. Everyone over the age of 6 months is eligible at this point, and it is still recommended, particularly if you are high risk or have chronic diseases, that you do so. Just our continual plug to make sure that folks are going out and getting vaccinated and getting those boosters. So if you have not done that, please do so. If you have children or other family members that you can encourage to be vaccinated, please do that. Pharmacies, we're still offering clinics, your provider's offices should all have boosters available to you.
Thank you. All right, so at this time, we're going to invite our first speakers. So the Office of Health Equity and Racial Justice is subsumed under the Office of Assessment and Planning under the leadership of Donna Perkins. And so at this time, we're going to talk about how championing policy system environmental changes works to advance health equity. So I am pleased to be joined by my colleagues in the Office of Assessment and Planning, Donna Perkins and Kristen Coleman, who will give us an overview of the legislative process through an equity lens.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Corinne shared, I am Kristen Coleman, the health policy analyst with the Office of Assessment and Planning. So Donna and I will be going over the law process, and it's going to share how we view it and consider equity in creation. So you can go to the slide. Go to that. Okay, so just to provide a quick overview of the Maryland General Assembly. So it has two chambers, which is called the Maryland General Assembly, and it's called the Senate and the House of Delegates. It's currently in session, and so they meet in Annapolis each year from January to April. And then each chamber, the Senate and the House of Delegates, serve on committee, and which is where they review each bill. So here's an overview of each chamber's committee. So in the Senate, we have the Budget and Taxation, Education, Energy, and the Environment, Executive Nominations, Finance, Judicial Proceedings and Rules. And then in the House, we have Appropriation, Economic Matters, Environment and Transportation, Health and Government Operations, Rules and Executive Nominations, the Judiciary, and Ways. So we'll quickly go over how the process and how a bill becomes a law. So we've included a little flow chart to the right to follow along as well. So I'll start by saying that the process is identical in both chambers, but I'll just start off just saying the House, but it's the same in each one. So for the first reading, the bill is introduced in either the House or the Senate, and that's when that legislation is assigned to the committee for review. And so after that committee reviews it, that bill is scheduled for a public hearing. And so what happens in that process is that individuals, like whether a resident or an organization or whoever that bill, whoever may be interested in that bill, can sign up to testify for or against that bill, or if they're concerned or want to provide any information on it, they can submit that to that committee for their review. And the testimony part is important to the process because that's what legislators take into consideration when they are deciding what to do on a bill. And so those testimonies can result in changes, which is also what we also call amendments to the bill. So after the bill is passed through both chambers, after it's gone through revisions and amendments, it goes to the governor. And so the governor will either sign the bill or veto. And if he or she, excuse me, does not veto the bill, it will return back to the General Assembly for their review, and they can override that with 3/5 vote of the entire legislature. And so that happens, it becomes law. So when you visit the MGA website, and just to see all the bills that are currently in session, you'll click legislation right there, and you can just see which ones are starting out in the Senate or the House, and in the House is like over 1,200 currently, and in the Senate, it's a little over 900 currently.
Bills?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So when you click a bill that you may be interested in, you'll see the timeline of that, so, and you'll see where it currently is. So for example, this bill, Economic Justice and Racial Reconciliation Act, it's currently in the Committee of Origin, which is the Health and Government Operations. So when you click on it, you'll see the title, the delegate or senator that sponsored that bill, when the next hearing is, if it's scheduled. The synopsis, so you can see just the general overview of it, the committee where it was assigned. And then if you click history, which will be on the next slide, you can see the overview and changes. But if you want to read the entire bill, you'll click that top number at the top just to read the entire bill. So here's the history. You'll see when it was filed, when it was first read, and the original text, and then the hearings if it was canceled. If the bill undergoes amendments, you will also be able to see that there, and see what changes were considered after testing.
Now it's my turn, so thank you again, Donna Perkins. There'll be a quiz at the end for everyone here. I think the key thing to take away though from all of this is just there are so many opportunities to be able to speak up. So don't be overwhelmed by the process and don't be overwhelmed by the volume. I think the key thing to know is really there are many, many ways to engage. So we're just going to talk a little bit more about, in case you get on the rabbit hole of the legislation, what you'll find. And then we're going to also talk about some of those opportunities to engage. So if you clicked on a bill, as Kristen mentioned, this is what you're going to see. This somewhat daunting text that can be a little overwhelming the first time you look at it. But the key thing to know is a lot of these pieces of legislation, they're either adding to or replacing or altering existing policies. And so one thing you can always look at the beginning, they'll kind of give a synopsis of what this particular piece of legislation is about. And then they're going to say things like by replacing, by adding to, and that gives you a hint because then it tells you, oh, this is actually doing something to something already in existence. Let me go check and see what's there to begin with. So at least I know what they're trying to do. Next slide, please. And the other fun thing to know is there is a way to tell what's been done. And they're called markups. So if you clicked on the bill, what you'll see if it's bold and in capital letters, that is something that they're adding to in the existing law. So that's an automatic hint that this is something to focus in on. If there is a bracket, it indicates that something is being deleted from the law. And then once, as Kristen mentioned, the bills get proposed, they go into a committee, the committee all get their hands on it. There might be testimony and input, then they make alterations, which are called amendments to the bill. So how do they track those? Well, so with the amendments, what you can find is that they'll underline anything that was amended from when the bill was originally submitted, and then they'll do a strikeout or a line through it for anything that was taken out of the bill from when it was initially submitted. So right now, we're in a process. There's a lot of bills proposed legislation happening, and we're really now watching for these amendments. So this is a key thing to know if you're clicking on it in this part of the process. Next slide, please. And I just mentioned this. So when is the session? In 2023, we literally just passed the halfway point on Friday. So the current General Assembly will run through April 10th. We already had our introduction dates for those different chambers passed at the beginning of February. March 6th is coming up, and that'll be the final date for the introduction of new bills. So new bills can still keep coming in up until March 6th. And then on March 20th, it's called the crossover date. So the bills that have been introduced by the House get flipped over to the Senate. The bills that are introduced in the Senate get flipped over to the House. So again, the key thing to know is there are many opportunities for input along the way. Next slide, please. So health equity and policy and legislation. I don't think it's going to come as a surprise, but many of our health inequities, I should say, can often be traced back to some of the policies that have been in place over the years. These policies affect housing, they affect transportation, they affect education, they affect, how we make our livelihood and our income. So these, again, prime opportunity to make sure that the voices of the folks that you're representing are heard throughout the process. And just some quick examples going on to the next slide. We did a very fast search to say, okay, if we just, in that search engine that we pointed out, if we just type in the word equity, let's see what policies come up. Or if we type in the word justice, let's see what policies come up. So if you just want a place to start, to see what's out there, we put a few on here. This is not exhaustive by any stretch of the imagination, but this just gives you a sense of some of the different policies that have been proposed this year that are currently, for the most part, still being considered. And you can click, once you get this presentation, you can click on that hyperlink, it'll take you straight into the bill. And again, also, you can always just go on the Maryland General Assembly site and type in words like equity or justice and see what comes up. Next slide, I think, is just, just a few more just to, tickle your fancy with the start down the legislative pathway. So when we're thinking about how do we look at these policies with an equity lens, you always want to start with your W's. What problem are we trying to address? Who does this policy impact? And really, when you get down to it, it's who would benefit from this policy, who might not benefit from this policy, and who might be negatively impacted. So if you're always thinking of policies in terms of the who, and not just, the positive and the negative, those are a great place to start. Also, too, just thinking about, will this legislation impact health disparities in any way? Is it going to, benefit, or is it going to be a negative impact? And also very important to think about, is there any evidence or any information out there that helps us to know whether or not this was a good policy? So sometimes doing that search to figure out if it's good or not could take a little while, but it's definitely worth the effort if it's something that you think you might be interested in learning more about and supporting or opposing. Next slide, please. Another interesting thing, the Maryland General Assembly, it's a fairly recent addition. They're now doing racial equity impact notes. And these are currently only being done for criminal oriented legislation, so they won't have them on everything. But when you do see one, I strongly encourage you to click on it. And what it does, it goes into what the bill does, and then also we'll talk about how this can impact different groups from a racial equity lens. So the example that we put over here on the slide too, and you could even, again, go onto the Maryland General Assembly site and look it up, is SB 0088, which is about an expungement for convictions of cannabis, of marijuana. All right, next slide, please. So what can we do? Well, I mean, register to vote. I'm sure you've heard that message many times over the years. Another good place to start, if you don't know where to start, a great place to start is who is your representative and finding out who that is. Should I do a show of hands? How many folks here know who their representative is? All right. Okay, so we have an easy way to do it for those of you all that haven't looked that up before. And that's just, again, when you get these slides, you can click on the link and all you have to do is put in your information and it'll take you to show you who your representatives are and have a little bit of information about them and also just, what their actions have been in the Senate and the House. So obviously tracking the legislation of interest is also a good thing to do. Again, that can be a little overwhelming with so many bills. We totally understand that. But there are opportunities, like I said, to just do some quick searches on the Maryland General Assembly site if there's something of interest. And also too, when you know who your representative are, you have great opportunities to write letters to them to let them know what you're concerned about. And Kristen put in a lovely reminder in our slide, which is all bills begin as an idea. So you never have to feel like there isn't a good place to start because they all started somewhere. And that writing or calling of your representative, we're going to talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. But those are some easy actions that don't necessarily require you to be a legislative expert. Another thing too, because we are in the session right now, there are opportunities to sign up to testify or submit letters about particular bills. So there's opportunities to provide what's called oral testimony, which can be either in person or online, and then also written testimony. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute as well. And of course, always participating in town hall meetings that your representative may be having. Those are great opportunities to engage. Next slide, please. So we just went ahead and included a few tips. If there was something that you felt compelled to talk to your legislator about, there are tips for writing your legislator, which is just being clear about what you're writing about, using your own words. You don't need a form letter or anything like that. It's really great if you make it very, personal for you, their constituent. And also to request a reply. And if calling, you're probably going to talk to, a staff person somewhere. So just again, having your talking points set up and ready to go is really helpful. And also ask that your call could be returned if it's something that you're really engaged with. What? So providing testimony in the Maryland General Assembly. Each chamber, the Senate and the House, have specific guidelines. And so we have added that link in there if you just want to see what is involved about providing testimony. Again, that can be both. Right now, we're still doing both in-person and online testimony opportunities. Some helpful place to start is to go back in time and look at previous bills, and you can actually look to see what folks' testimony looks like. So you can see what was submitted. You can also just see who signed up to testify. You can watch video recordings of what happened there. So none of it has to be an unknown. There are ways of finding out what's been done in the past to be able to help guide any action that you might want to take. Next slide. Oh, and it's the quiz time. I'm just kidding. All right, so any questions that we can answer or try to answer today?
I have tons, but. Okay, so, wait a minute, you said, so is it too late to submit a bill? It's not too late, I have until March 6th.
It is not too late to submit a bill. At this point, most bills that would be submitted would be via a committee.
Okay.
So it might be just in the sense of where we are in the General Assembly, it might be a little late for this particular session, but
It'll be 2024 that I would have.
well, so there's a couple of things. One thing I would suggest is if there's a particular topic you have in mind, is use that search engine and see if you can find any bills that are related to that particular area already.
Okay.
Because there might be some opportunities to provide testimony or a letter during that committee hearing about that particular topic area. Also to talking to your delegate and representative and say, hey, this is something I'm really, really interested in, and here's why. That's that opportunity of doing that, letter and phone call to make that connection.
Okay, so two things, 3 questions. Hold on. Okay, so as they're running away, where does health, you said it's a committee, so you broke down the chambers, where do we fall? What committee? You said.
So health equity there is no specific, so there are committees for like health and government affairs, but
That's last, I'm talking about.
yeah. However, policy around health equity could appear in any of those committees, truly. Yeah, so it's not like everything is just gonna be, that'd be a lot easier for us, right? If it was all just in one committee, because then we'd be like, go to this committee. Sadly, it doesn't work that way because health equity touches all of those things. Health equity touches, yeah.
Okay.
I think it was early on, right, maybe like slide 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll come back to that.
Mhm.
Is there a statute of limitation on something that happened to you personally that you could present as a bill?
So again, if you're speaking from your personal just voice.
Okay.
Down. Oh, no, sorry. There we go.
Okay.
Is that the one you were talking
Yeah,
about? Yeah,
so health equity it could fall in any of those.
it could. Yeah, a bill related to health equity, because health equity truly touches
Everything.
everything.
Okay, I just
Yeah,
wanna know
yeah,
where do
yeah.
who would I be, like, where would they send me if I were to pursue something?
Well, so again, I think if it's something you're interested in, I'd start with the search
Okay.
engine and just see if you can find any bills that are somehow related. Because you could always contact the sponsors of that particular bill and reach out to their legislative office. You could also just start by talking to your representatives and just letting them know. And as far as, telling your personal story, there's no limit on what you share with them. I would just say, we've given you kind of that little guide about tips, like the ways that you can present that information. So I think that can be a helpful starting point just to even, raise the concern.
Okay, so if I have a concern that happened 2 years ago, it's not too late.
And just a general, like something you want to tell them about that you feel like.
No, I
that
would
needs
like to get some amendments made on some.
Oh, I
Like,
see.
is there a statute of limitation where I can present to try to push through legislation? Something happened to my family 2 years ago.
Yeah, so I would just say, just not knowing the circumstances, you can always reach out to your legislator about a bill that you feel like needs to be changed. There is no limitation in the sense of, this is something that was personal to me, this is how it affected me and my family, and this, this is the particular part of that bill that, I would really love to see.
Wish I had known
something-
about this, right?
Oh,
But this is good. I think
sorry.
this is why- I mean, I know it's about health, but this is why I'm here. I'm on dual mission. I got dual missions. This is good. No, this was good. This is good.
Okay, you're
That's all
welcome.
the questions I have.
Okay.
Right now.
And Kristen's email address too is on the presentation, so if you all have follow-up questions afterwards, feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Donna and Kristen, for unpacking the legislative process for us and connecting the dots. I think this was very inspirational,
Yes.
very helpful.
Yes.
Questions in the chat? Don't want to
Oh,
miss any opportunity.
I just want to say one thing, Joanna and Kristen guide us at the health department
Mhm.
in navigating through this, so they are the right people to share all of this with you.
Yes. All right, so want to transition to our next speaker, Tracy Cherry. She's a proud Knight alumnus of both the prestigious Baltimore City College High School and the HBCU Norfolk State University. For a decade, she worked as Assistant Director of Programs for the YWCA of Annapolis in Anne Arundel County, where she founded and directed several programs for women and youth. In addition, Tracy Cherry served as a care coordinator for Wraparound Maryland, a nonprofit organization funded by the Governor's Office for Children. The organization coordinates services for families with children with mental and emotional disabilities. She's currently the Director of Community Outreach and Engagement, as well as the Kinship Care Support Group Facilitator for the Local Management Board of Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. We're delighted to have Tracy with us to talk about South County and the work that she's doing there.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I am so delighted to be with you this afternoon. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. I apologize that I'm not there in person, but we wear many hats and I had to facilitate a group right after this. But I'm delighted to be here with you this afternoon. Raymond, please take that picture down.
What's the next slide?
Next slide. Okay, so I have the awesome opportunity to talk to you about, well, can you go to the next slide? That's West County. We have several communities of hope. We have our original community of hope that was birthed out of Brooklyn Park. We also have Annapolis, West County, and South County. And South County, you can go to the next slide. I want to get to South County, and I'm going to be brief. There we go. There's my area. South County is pretty large. There are several areas in South County, from Galesville to London Town to Edgewater, Lothian, Shadyside, Hardwood, Tracy's Landing, and the list goes on. So it's a huge community, and we're trying to make sure that this huge community is an inclusive one to everyone. So our South County Community of Hope, we're focusing on 3 different areas, 3 primary results, and that's families are safe and economically stable, children enter school ready to learn, and all people are safe and physically and mentally healthy. Now you might say that's a huge elephant, right? But how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So that's why we pulled our Community of Hope partners together so that we can tackle these areas together. We want to increase awareness of community resource-based needs, jobs and health, living wages, youth development, affordable bilingual early childhood education and care, which is really, really important, as we all know, and affordable quality health care. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great, okay, fine. And so, of course, safe transportation is one that all of our communities of hope have in common, and that's what we want to see. In South County, we would like to see also not just safe transportation, but more sidewalks and walkability. This slide will be available for you all. I won't go through the whole thing. If you have any questions, I know I'm speaking quickly because I only have 5 minutes. Please feel free to interrupt me or put it in the chat. You could go to the next slide. And I see my executive director, Dr. Pamela Brown, is here also. And Pam, if you have anything to add, feel free to stop in and support me on this. So you could go to the next slide. Well, can't see that. So you can go back again. Go back again, I'm sorry. Can you go back? Okay, so this says Annapolis Community of Hope, but our communities of hope have a common denominator. And it's not, we do want to see our youth to be successful in school. We want our youth to be healthy, and we want them to have opportunities for employment and career readiness, and families are healthy, economically and stable, and communities are safe. For our South County Community of Hope, we want to make sure that we know things are spread far apart, and transportation is a huge issue. And what we found, especially around food access, is that our families in South County, a lot of them are leaving the county to access food. They are going to the Giant and the Safeway up in Prince Frederick in Calvert County. Then we have some of our Hispanic families. There's one in Wasons, that shopping center down there. There is a Hispanic grocery store. Goodness, like it's the Latin Market in Lothian. And what we've heard from our families down there is that they're going all the way to Silver Springs. It's called the Silver Spring Mega Mart to shop, because they have more of a variety and more affordable and fresh vegetables and fruits. So we want to make sure that we bring that to everybody's attention, and we're working with that. Our food guru at the partnership is Miss Diana Taylor, and we are working together with our South County. I see Maya clapping. we are working with our South County residents to make sure that we are working on that problem. We do have 3 pantries in South County that we're working with, and that's the Holy Cathedral that's located in Edgewater. We have Ralph Wunsch that's in Edgewater, and we have Franklin United Methodist Church in Deal. So we are in the community. There are some pop-up pantries in our mobile home communities, like in Boones and Wasons Estate, in Patuxent and Rio Vista and Merlin Manor and Lions Creek. So we are present and we are here. I'm going to put our resource number in the chat, so that if you find families that are in need of, have needs in South County and with basic needs or any food insecurities that they may come across, they can feel free to call our resource line, and we will connect them with folks that can provide assistance. If you have any questions at this time, I'm here to answer any questions. And like I said, Dr. Brown is here also. It's just important to note that it's not what I think when we're working with families and community, but it's what the families need and what we learn that they need. We can't sit and guess and try to figure out what they need. We want to get in there, be a part of the community, be visible, and let them know that, let our families know that we're here to help.
Thank you so much, Tracy.
I think Pam is trying to say something, but she's muted.
I was just saying thank you. And I think everybody knows that we started our communities of hope in all of the different areas where we found the data through Poverty Amidst Plenty to say these are the areas in the county that most need our help and most need resources. They are the places that have got the most need and the least resources. And South County is our biggest in a sense, at least in terms of geography. And Tracy's done such a good job of talking about the transportation there. But each of our communities of hope is made up of hundreds of stakeholders in that community, so in the South County community. And our aim is to try to coordinate and gather together and work together to try to start knocking off these needs one by one and creating resources through partnership and collaboration. So Tracy is our South County Community of Hope Director, and we have Myzetta for Brooklyn Park and Annapolis, and Diana Taylor does our West County Community of Hope. And our purpose is to get as close to the people and as close to the residents as humanly possible, to immerse ourselves and to try to build trust among residents, as well as pulling stakeholders together. So that's really what we're about. And Tracy is well and truly immersed in South County and all of the pieces of South County. So thank you, Trace.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dr. Brown. What questions do you have at this time? Any questions in the chat?
And you're all welcome to join us. Just email Myzetta Wilson and she'll put you on the right list.
What is the contact information? Do we have a slide for that? If not, we can send that information out.
I'm putting it in a chat as we speak.
Wonderful.
And I'll share it.
We'll share it as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So our
I
next,
have one.
oh, sure, go ahead.
So West County, that would be like Glen Burnie, is that West County?
Yeah.
Seven, okay, Diana Taylor?
So Diana Taylor, yes, and it includes Severn and Mead.
Okay, I just make sure that my thinking was right, okay, thank you.
Thank you. So our next speaker actually hails from South County. He's going to lend his voice and expertise to give life to the theme of this year's theme for this year's Black History Month, which is Black Resistance. Apostle Coates is the senior pastor at Fresh Start Church, Spirit-filled community located in Glen Burnie, West County, which has grown to over 800 active disciples. He's a veteran pastor of 26 years and enjoys sharing the gospel and teaching principles of church growth and expansion. He's the founder and guiding prelate for the Triumphant Church Assemblies, Fellowship for Churches and Nonprofits. Apostle Coates launched Growth Matters, Inc., consulting business that conducts church assessments, workshops, and trainings on church growth and community partnerships. He's often contracted by governmental agencies to carry out assessments and to facilitate with meetings, circumventing collaboration and community engagement. Apostle Coates also is a true entrepreneur, having established Modern Priestwear Inc. So we're very delighted to have Apostle Coates with us to talk about Black resistance and Black.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And Raymond, you can keep that picture up. I remember not. So this is my favorite time of the year to talk about Black history. And I know this is Black History Month. And this theme here is particularly befitting for me on Black resistance because this was the scope of my dissertation, which was on Afro-centered education as a companion to traditional curriculum. And so I'm always interested in conversations about Black history, Black resistance, Black liberation. So what I'd like to do is to start with those two words, Black resilience and Black resistance. And I wanted to share that these two words have been part of the African and African-American narrative. In fact, you can't talk about Black history without talking about Black resistance and Black resilience as well as liberation. Very quickly, just a quick definition. Resilience is the capacity to withstand or recover quickly from something, whereas resistance is refusal to accept or comply with something. And immediately, I'd kind of like you to take a chance to look at YouTube and pull up the old hymn, Old Freedom. Old Freedom basically describes the very act of resistance and resilience of African people and people of color historically. In terms of African American existence, again, those terms are applicable to our entire story from the time that we had kingdoms that were run in very wealthy, self-maintained communities in the country and the continent of Africa, up until colonization in the 1400s to the 1600s, institutional slavery in the United States. What it may appear to some as a thing of the past, racism and acts of violence towards people of color are just as prevalent today as in the past. Our country's built its success on the enslavement of Black bodies in red land. From slave codes to Jim Crowism and present day policies, voter disenfranchisement, people of color continue to demonstrate resilience despite the many challenges. In fact, I'm a firm supporter of quantitative and qualitative analysis, different methods for making sure people of color are equally represented in the institutions that govern our country. Some of those institutions, family, youth and family, business, media, school, education, organizations that law enforcement, religious and fraternal organizations, civic groups, healthcare, state and local agencies. And I thought this is amazing that we talked about all of that today. This is what equity really is about. Without knowledge of the very real threats to people of color's continued existence and intentional strides to confronting the norms and practices, the institutions that I spoke of only perpetuate the existing biases and discriminative practices. So I would like to, for a moment, call your attention to the screen as I draw from a few slides from my dissertation work that is actually being displayed this entire month at Maryland Hall for Creative Arts. I have a full display of 24 boards that are part of my dissertation work called Freedom Way. So if you would, please, thought this would be of interest to you as we try to look at the past and connect it to the current. Here are a few slides from my presentation. If you look to the far right, it shows slavery and what the real horrid abuse of slavery really was, that people of color were not considered human beings. They were considered property. And in my presentation, I noted the branding of people, human beings with labels. A lot of people did not know that African people were driven as far as 1,000 miles from the interiors of the continent of Africa to the coastlines, where they would be held up to even a whole year in captivity in their own country before being transported to the Americas through the transatlantic slave trade. And of course, a lot of people did not know that at least 2/3 of those that were taken from their homes died in the process just getting to the coastline, let alone those that died in the journey of at least 80 days in a ship crammed and packed like sardines versus human beings. And a lot of them died. And insurance companies made a whole lot of money off of those that died as well as those that made the journey. But when it comes to resistance and resilience, those who resisted, many of them resisted in many forms. They fought back, they warred, they tried to fight, as well as committing suicide, jumping off of the ships to be sure that, as Old Freedom says, before I become a slave, I'll be buried in my grave. So many different ways, revolting, rebellion, were forms of resistance. But then I wanted you to see down in the right-hand corner, a place right here in the United States of America that most people don't know exists, which is a place called Africatown. The last ship, known ship, to bring in, African people into the Americas was 1860. This was 52 years after slave trade was abolished. And still yet, people were being smuggled into the country. But these 100 people that were brought into the country 5 years later, emancipation had become fully realized in our country. And they began to purchase land around them, and they formed their own town, Africatown, which still exists today. At some point in its peak, Africatown housed at least 10,000 people. And now they are working very hard to get reparations and things of the sort for what they dealt with. To the far left, top and bottom, to the top, excuse me, I highlight the Civil War, and in particular, ways in which people of color who were enslaved and free fought for freedom. And I felt this was really important to show that the Civil War was a very bold time for people of color who were enslaved in the South, who escaped, put their life at risk and escaped the Confederacy, joined the Union camp. There's a picture of a gentleman who has the whelps on his back from being beaten mercilessly. And that picture was taken by a Union doctor. Once it was posted and it got out, more men from the North began to join the Union Army. That same man became a Union soldier, and you can see many of the U.S. colored troops looking very proud because this is the first time they're treated as human beings and not as property. Following the Civil War and the end of slavery, a lot of people say, you know, we're so glad we get the Emancipation Proclamation. However, many people don't realize that legislation without enforcement is just legislation. So we talked about just the ways in which, in order for slave owners to give up their slaves, President Lincoln had to actually give reparations to slave owners. Most people don't know that. In Washington, D.C. alone, the amount of money in reparations given for releasing their slaves would have totaled $280 million today in Washington, D.C. alone. But now here's resilience and resistance. So freed people who were former slaves formed their own convention meeting in Washington, D.C. called the Former Slaves Convention. And they were able to get President Lincoln in the same year to pass the Compensatory Act that allowed them to receive compensation for their own freedom for being slaves, as well as for the ability to free their loved ones. And so this was an act of resilience and an act of resistance, you know, just coming back to say, no, we refuse to be less than. So I wanted to just put a few of those things in from the past, but I want to kind of connect it midway around the time of civil rights with the next slide. And that simply is locally. Let's talk about locally. Everything that happens on a national front, I believe, is just a symptom of what happens locally. And here are some local acts of resistance. And I want to add from people I personally knew. The lady in the middle there is Ms. Marita Carroll. She was my second grade teacher. Just 9 or 10 years after desegregation of our school system. And here she is there because she was one of a few African Americans living right here in Annapolis that went to a counter in a local restaurant and sat down and refused to not be served. They were arrested. And she was not only one I knew, but one of the gentlemen whose name was William Lamb Johnson was a deacon and one of my mentors in the church I grew up in. And though he hardly ever talked about his involvement as a hero, they saw it as a part of their everyday survival, these acts of resistance and resilience. And so I wanted to just put their stories in here. And this was in the Capitol when this happened in November 1960, just 62 years ago. These were the types of African-American resistance and resilience that existed even then that paved the way for us today. So speaking of today, let me go to the last frame. Someone else that I've known very well is in our next frame. So I know both of these ladies. Proudly, I know both of them. In the middle, I think we all know her as Dr. Maya Angelou. I knew her as Dr. A. And I'll tell you in just a moment about her contribution to us locally. And the lady to the right is Dr. Carol Parham. She is the person by which our Board of Education is named after. Not because it's just a pretty name, but she had to deal with some horrible things when it comes to attacks on African Americans. So there are two particular incidents that I was very aware of. One at a school that I did attend, and that was at South River High School. And I was one of the students that attended in the 80s, and certainly racist acts were very overt and very public, and bullying wasn't really something that was being focused on. But there was a book that we read as part of the curriculum called I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. It was my introduction to all of Dr. A's books. But that book went through a great transition because some concerned parents decided that book needed to be banned in our school system. And so they made many threats to Dr. Parham, and after much debate, it was pulled from the school curriculums at Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Okay, I thought that was really important to know. But right behind that, which was 1998, I think it was January of 1998. In August of 1998, I had the privilege of opening a church exempt school called Rapture Learning Institute for Excellence, which educated kids K through 12th grade. And we had our own curriculum, which I developed the curriculum from my dissertation work at University of Maryland. And we had an amazing program. And the lady in the middle who wrote the book was a contributor monthly to our school. Her great niece was a student at our school, and she paid for the education and made regular contributions every single month to our learning process. I thought it was just amazing. I never thought I'd get to meet her personally. But our school was an act of resilience and resistance because most of the students were African-American children falling through the cracks in our public school system. But I would be so proud to say, and Candace here was our principal for 2 years, that the majority of our students went on to exceed the education ability of most of their peers 2 years, by 2 years, graduating to be great men and women. And I include her daughter, who is graduating this year as a medical doctor, who was a student at our school from the 2nd grade. And so these were just some local acts, and I thought that would be interesting. But I want to read one thing to you, which I wrote down from one of the articles, just to show how very real these acts are against people of color and how very real the struggle is. And that is simply where one parent simply made this statement. And she said, I had to stand up for what I believed in. She said, cage bird was assigned to her son. It is not appropriate for 9th graders. It is explicit sexually, and it gives a dated portrayal of whites. And then she went on to say, it is perfectly understandable for it to be anti-white because it was written in 1969. So this kind of terminology and language was characteristic of the many beliefs that continue to try to prevail, but yet resistance and resilience is what this month is really all about. I ended with a quotation from Brandon Gonzalez, who I quote in my presentation, where he talks about the liberation of people of color. He said, the global diaspora, we've always continued to resist and exist under regimes of anti-Black terror. Since the development of racial capitalism, the use of African peoples as capital, our ancestors have always fought for freedom. Our history doesn't begin with slavery, but our future depends on us ending the mechanisms of it. Juneteenth, which is a celebration coming up that we highlight here in Annapolis, is an extension of that abolitionist spirit where we march forth in reflection of the struggle. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What a wonderful, what a wonderful overview.
Thank you. Thank you.
What questions, or comments, feedback?
When did you find out about Africa Sound? Because it was once called Plateau, Mobile, Alabama.
Absolutely, yes, Mobile, yes, and exactly, it's the same location.
Yeah.
Well, I first found out about it when I went back to college for the degree in African American Studies. I was amazed to know that there are towns that existed where the descendants, and one of the descendants of that time, the last one to be traded in the African slave trade, died in 1937. There are documented stories. She has an oral story that was documented. And of course, Zora Neale Hurston documented the life of Cudjo Lewis, who was another survivor, came like the town mayor. So that's how I found out about it.
Did you see the 60-minute special this past?
Well, actually, yes, I highlighted in my presentation that is funded by Barack Obama, and that they have recently resurrected the Clotilda, which is the ship that went missing. Because the federal government tried those shipmasters, but they had no evidence. And just 3 years ago, the ship was found and they raised the Clotilda. So now there's the Clotilda Foundation that's seeking reparations, which makes me think about one thing. Thank you for the presentation about how bills are run in our state, because there is a House Bill 0409, which is the Maryland Reparations Act Commission, which we need to be following because it is speaking about the Harriet Tubman Community Reinvestment Act. And it's a talk about reparations. So there's not just a bill in the federal government house, that bill, which has been on the table since 1989, it hasn't gotten much support, but now there's a bill in the state of Maryland.
It's on the list. It's on the list in our presentation.
Yes, it is,
too.
House Bill 0409. Yes, click on it. In progress. And it's organizations like this, it's the establishment of equity programs through a local government that allows us to really focus on the disparities and the issues.
P Hill says, I greatly appreciate the equity lens discussion. It aligns with the approach of the county's DEI office.
Thank you so much, Pete. All right, we certainly want to thank all of our speakers for today. What a wonderful discussion we've had. Just want to bring your attention to a few things. We certainly would like your feedback. So we included the link here. If you have feedback on our forums, if you have topics that you'd like for us to bring to the forums, feel free to let us know. We want to be responsive to your needs. If you'd like to share what you're doing at your agencies during one of our forums, let us know. We're certainly happy to invite you. Then we'd like for you to take a look at the local behavioral health authorities community survey. They are wanting to get some perspective on their community plan for behavioral health. We know that this is an important topic, especially for community of color. And so if you have feedback, check out the plan and let them know what your thoughts are on their behavioral health plan. Again, this plan is for the entire county. So we certainly want to hear from you and get multiple voices from different communities. Our next open houses, as Dr. Kalyan Rahman mentioned, is March 7th and March 21. We hope that you will show up. If you'd like to RSVP, feel free to reach out to Megan Preenol to do so. And lastly, we'd like to invite you to our gun violence intervention team community meeting. I'm told that it's going to be a very dynamic meeting. In fact, Apostle Coates, you're going to be participating on a panel.
Yes.
So if you'd like to hear more from Apostle Coates, feel free to come out. This is actually a hybrid meeting. So if you're not able to join in person, you can do so virtually. But we do invite you at the next meeting on March 2nd.
Franklin, can you go back to the previous one? Because I have a question about, what are these again? So this is a forum, what are these?
These are our open houses.
What happens there?
I'm sorry,
What happens at an open house? Like what's the point of those? Because I'm thinking about trying to make them, but I just didn't know where I'm getting what I'm walking into. Yeah.
Always welcome.
Right, I know.
So we're going to be talking about our Healthy Communities program and why it's so essential to our county and why we want to continue offering it for our residents, especially our marginalized communities.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, feel free to keep in touch with us. You can reach out to us via email or check us out on Facebook. We keep our pages active and we love to hear from you. Thank you so much for your participation in this monthly forum. And we'll see you next time.